Chris Petri here. Hey, welcome everybody. We're going to actually have a wonderful time today. We're going to create this wonderful shore house along the beautiful ocean side. We're going to cover the design principles that we use to create this pattern of our subject matter sitting in a particular place on our canvas or our watercolor paper. And we're going to also cover how you can use directional lines in your painting to draw the attention of your viewers right into the main focal point of your painting, right here, this beautiful, wonderful clapboard siding house along the side of the ocean here, and a gorgeous road running along here. This just is a great painting to really get familiar with the washes of the watercolor, which are beautiful in itself, and then the design principles of using the 4 quadrants of your watercolor paper effectively, and as well as using directional lines very effectively to get your viewer to focus on your painting and the ideas that you want them to focus on. So we're going to get started in just a second. We'll start with the sketch and the design of this painting, and we'll follow through on the whole entire painting with all the washes. We explain everything here, soup to nuts, on colors, the way we're going to create this painting from the sky, the foreground washes, the ocean, and of course we're going to start with the house and how you can create all these beautiful techniques and methods of painting in watercolor very simply by just following the step-by-step process. So we'll be right back and we'll cover everything here. Enjoy, have a great time with this. Anyone can do this painting, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or you've been painting for 10 years. It doesn't matter. You can do this painting. It's just following the steps, following the process, and you'll have it. Okay, we'll start out in just a second with the overall design and pencil drawing first, and then the painting. Hey everybody, it's Chris Petri. Welcome again. We're getting started here with our drawing and our painting. You just saw the finished painting, of course, and I want you to work from that if you can. If you hit pause and you can work from the painting itself, I think it's much easier because then you're actually seeing the exact lines, the shapes of everything, the colors. You can also hit pause when I'm done with my drawing, my pencil drawing, so you can work from that too as well. You can hit pause on the pencil drawing portion and then work from that, and then you can work along with the watercolors as we go in the step-by-step process as we're painting and mixing colors. Or you can also pause at any point where it's pretty much at its finished state, the painting, and this way you'll be looking at the colors I used, and you'll be able to sort of pick up on what colors you'll need to use as you're painting. So it's all up to you. You find your own comfortable way to work with my channel and how I'm presenting my tutorials here. And we'll start out by first thing, let me add some paints to my palette here. So I'm just adding some cerulean blue here. I'm running low on that. I use cerulean blue a lot, so I have 2 pans of cerulean blue that I'm always filling up all the time. I go through a lot of cerulean blue. Raw umber I use a lot too. Raw umber, beautiful earth color. So I'm going to add some of that to my pan here. Also I need some burnt sienna, so I'm going to add some burnt sienna to my palette here. And I think that's good for right now. I just filled up the French ultramarine blue yesterday when I was painting, and I have plenty of cobalt blue. So you'll kind of see the colors I use. These are really high intensity colors like the reds and oranges, so I don't use those quite as often in my paintings, but I do use them all the time, but just not in that much quantity. I use a lot of quantity of the French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, raw umber, cerulean blue, cobalt blue. Those colors I really use a lot. Purple I use quite a bit too. And the yellows and reds and things, I use those quite often, but I use them more sparingly because they really go a long way. And usually those are more for flower paintings and things, and it goes a long way, the high intensity colors like the reds and the oranges and yellows. So I usually keep my paints in a bag. All the cool colors like blues and greens I leave in one bag, Ziploc bag. This way it just makes it a little bit quicker to find the paints I need, and then the warm colors, reds, yellows, earth colors, I put those in the other bag. So I have 2 bags usually. I sit them on my art table over here on the side. And those are ready to go. Anytime I need to recharge the palette. So let's start off here. And we'll do a sketch first. And I always, on my channel here, you'll always notice I do preliminary sketches. So the reason I do a preliminary sketch first is just to make sure I have everything where I want it. And if I have to change something and I go to erase it, it's only a super light line that I'm going to have to erase and readjust. Versus if I go with a really dark line at first, does that make sense? So go with your preliminary sketch for a super light sketch, just to, like an outline or a silhouette of your composition of whatever you're going to be working. And then once that's done, then you can go in with your darker pencil line and do more of the details of your drawing, the darker lines, and then you're going to go over the top of that, of course, with your painting, which is you'll already be all set and you'll be ready to go at that point. So let's do that first. Let's get our silhouette. So I think I'm going to make this, usually, again, I always talk about this, and I just like to just kind of make a note of it with a little more. So I have my scrap paper here, and I like to just do a couple quick. So for this painting, I want to use sort of a 4 quadrants feel for my composition here. So this is my paper. This is our rectangle we're working in right now, and I'm going to think of this as 4 quadrants of my composition of this painting. So I'm going to make 4 quadrants is basically just a simple four quadrants. And usually in your compositions, you'll find that if you put your main subject matter in either one of these locations, you're going to really be safe. If you put a large house here, or a large tree here, let's say, or a figure here, maybe, let's say, any kind of subject matter, if you put it in one of these quadrants and then leave the rest of the quadrants a little more quiet and not as much action going on in there, you're going to have a very pleasant, pleasing looking painting, because it's sort of just a principle in design that if you can get a large bit of subject matter in one quadrant of your painting and then leave the other areas a little more quiet, not as much action going on, you'll have a better composition that way. And it's just only one. There's literally hundreds of type things like this, compositional ideas. But there are some really main compositional ideas that a lot of artists use, and this is definitely one of the most popular. So you'll see this a lot in paintings if you're browsing through books or online pictures, photos of paintings and great artwork from like hundreds and thousands of years ago. This is used a lot, this idea of, so we're going to use this upper quadrant here today in this area for our painting, and the rest is going to be more, again, a more quieter, not that much interesting things going on, but most of the interesting things are going to be going on here. So that just translates into me taking this painting, making a super light, section of just 4 sections here, and then I'm going to make my main subject matter up here in the left side, upper left. So now that I think of that idea, now I'm going to draw. We're going to do a beautiful shore house here idea. So again, I'm going to go, you might not see this drawing so much. It might be a little difficult to see this, but I have to do it light first just to make sure I've got everything looking good. And so this is going to be a nice white clapboard house, shore house along the ocean area. And I think this part goes down like this. There's a balcony here with some railings, and the main entrance doors here. There's some steps on the front. This is the front doorway, and there's some columns here. And there's 4 windows on this facade here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm, again, doing very, very light sketching here. Okay, so I've got my location here. And there's a little chimney over here. Another chimney over here. And again, since we did a light sketch, we can erase things a little bit if we want. We can rearrange things. I'll maybe make this a little bit over this way, just a little more there. And I think there's another window there, and then there's a door, 2 doors there. French doors up here on top where the railings are. Okay, so here I've got a basic idea of a really beautiful white clapboard house along the shore areas here, and then there's some shrubs. So now I have my main subject matter set on my painting, and you're going to see how we'll develop this from here. So since I do have that, I'm just going to sharpen my pencil quick. And now we'll go in and we'll do our pencil sketch. So I'm going to do the final drawing now. Contour drawing. So I'm just going to go as I go across here. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to try to get the main idea of the building, the home here, and you'll see the lines I'm drawing. There's some windows and a door here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just want to get the basic idea of things. This is the balcony with some railings and the front doorway here. And we have some stairs like that. And again, you can do it more sketchy looking like this if you want. That works too. You know, you don't have to maybe have your lines all flowing together. I tend to enjoy this type of drawing more with everything's flowing as I'm going. But you can also do more of a get some lines in there. 1, 2, those are the columns. A window. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the windows. Or you can do more of a connecting them all together, doing more of a contour drawing. Or like I said, you can do the sketch method of just kind of sketching things out approximately, because we're going to paint over this. Don't forget that. We're painting over the top of this, so we're not getting too critical, but that's the main idea. That's the house here, and there's some more bushes over here, and another bush over here like so. And you can see these are basic shapes, like a round shape up here for this bush. This bush here is more of a square shape. This one's more of a round shape here. And there's another bush over here. So that looks good. Everything is looking pretty. And there's another bush over here. Like so. And I think this looks really good. We will then we will start to just sketch out. There's going to be a roadway here, and I'm going to do a light line this way just to make sure I'm landing correctly. So yeah, this should be right about here. So I'm going to do a really interesting, we're going to do a really strong composition of really fast moving lines in this painting. So you can kind of see if you have a long flowing line like this coming out to the front of your painting, that's really going to create like a zooming effect going into the painting, and that can really be powerful. So we're going to use that idea here of using a powerful fast line like this going into the painting. And we're going to use some brushwork too with our paints to make everything look fast moving. It can be an exciting technique to use when you're doing your paintings. And so here I'm going to do another line out here. So this is like a roadway going into where the home is here, maybe like a long driveway, or it could be a roadway running along the along this here. This might be a road that leads to the house, like a road driving by. And there's some hills over here. And that could be the ocean over here, so we can make some ocean over here. Let's make our ocean over here like this. That'll be our blue ocean over here. And then we're going to have some more lines this way, maybe a dark, maybe there's some, we'll use some good strong dark color over here to give us a good strong line and directional line going into the painting here. So this whole painting is sort of like a real fun, exciting composition of using strong lines, angular lines going into the subject matter where the house is here. And then we have, we could just darken these up a bit. These are going to be dark here, just so we know. We'll shade in some of the areas that we know we're going to put some dark washes, so we just remember that. And then we will have the ocean here. There will be some mountainous areas in the further distance here, going down toward the ocean area. And then maybe we'll have maybe we're going to have a power line here, some power lines. Those are along the roadway, again indicating some strong lines coming in. And then maybe some clouds over here. We'll just remember to make some clouds sort of in the same directional flow of kind of zooming everything into the picture here where the house is. And I think we're pretty good. And then we're just going to have a shadow line here. Maybe we can have a shadow along this section. So we'll do some shadow lines across our composition here. And that should be good. And then some shingles up here on the roof. And we have our chimneys over here. And I think that's good. The rest we're going to do with our paint. So you kind of can really get a feel for what we're doing here. We're having two main themes of design as we work on this composition and this painting. So the main theme we said at first is when we start out, we're looking to get that, taking our painting and breaking it into 4 divisions, like so, and then using one area, this area up here, with our house to make an interesting composition of the main theme is here in this one quadrant, this upper left quadrant, and the rest of these quadrants here are a little more quiet. They've got some road and some bushes, and we'll make a field in the front here and some clouds and sky, and then there's some water over here, some ocean over here, and some mountains over here a little bit. But you'll see that that is the main design of this. So we've gotten that down. That's our main design. And then the second main idea we have is the flowing lines of everything flowing into the picture toward this house, which is the main theme of the painting, this shore house along the ocean. And so those flowing lines, those fast-moving flowing lines, will create a really beautiful effect. If all of your concentration and your focus will be on this scene really well on the house, and it's going to be exciting. You'll see when we're finished with this. And so we're going to just do maybe one more. We'll do another maybe telephone pole here, like a, we'll do a telephone pole here with a few more lines. I think that's good. Like that. And I think that's fine. And then we're going to do some grass and weeds and things here in the front and some more. And we're going to keep this very simple. The more simple that we can keep this, the better. You'll see that as we paint this. So let's take a quick break. I always mention too, if you haven't subscribed at this point, please subscribe to my channel. It's a lot of fun. We're doing paintings like this every week. You know, everything is watercolor. We're doing houses, buildings, seascapes, landscapes, flowers, figure work. We do everything here, everything watercolor. So you'll always have some interesting new things to venture into with watercolor. And we cover all the details of it. So we're going to basically cover all the steps on how to create the paintings, and then also why we're doing everything and how we're doing it. So I'm telling you how I'm going to create this painting by showing us, we're showing all this here, the design of our painting, how we came to design our painting like this. So you can grab any picture you want of any house you like, take it, put it in that 1/4 of your painting, that one upper quadrant of your painting, and that's your focus point. Then you can create any number of ideas. You can make mountains in a western scene. You can do a shore scene. I happen to really enjoy the ocean. So for me, my favorite is the ocean. So I'm always going to try to put ocean type scenes together, and that's what I like to paint mostly. So you'll see the ocean's over here. I made this more of an ocean feel, a seascape type feel for this painting. But you can create anything you want and incorporate anything you want into this idea. And you just have to remember that the simple design of upper quadrant here, your main focal point, and the rest you just less information, but we're gonna do this strong, powerful lines going into this one location. Okay, so we're gonna come right back in just a second and we'll start the painting. Okay, we are back and we're actually gonna get started here on our painting portion of this painting here. We're doing a beautiful shore house, a white clapboard shore house along the ocean side here. We're having a road, beautiful road coming through here, and some grass and some sandy fields here in front of the house, and we're going to have some distant mountains over here. And let me just add some more mountains areas back here, just some rolling hills or whatever, nothing too, just to have something back there, because we do have this flow of the mountains going this way down into the shore area with the ocean over here on the right hand side. So I just wanted to add that in there. I didn't have that in there before. So you'll find that when you're drawing and doing your drawing and paintings, you'll sometimes leave something out, and then that's why breaks are so good. I did take a break so that when you come back up to your art table or you put your watercolor pad on your lap and you're getting started for your painting, if you've taken a break, you'll have a little fresher concentration, and then you'll notice a few things and say, oh, I did recall I need to add something over here, like some rolling hills, because I have the rolling hills over here, and I'll need to have them over here to sort of make it a complete thought as it's going through, and then the ocean over here. So that's something where when you take breaks, it's really good. It helps you to just take a break, take a step back, and then you see a few things, and then you start back up, and then when you're concentrating into your work again, you're not going to be maybe seeing the bigger picture when you're doing that, when you're working on your paints and your drawing. When you're really focused in on that, you're not going to see those. But when you take a break and step back and you come back, you'll see a few things you need to do. And that's why I take breaks and always encourage everybody, if you take breaks, I think you'll definitely be at an advantage with your drawings and your paintings. You'll have a better time of it. And I also, too, sometimes before I start painting, sometimes I'll just lift up a little bit of pencil marks with the eraser in a few spots here and there, just to soften it up a bit. Okay, now this is an Alla Prima painting. On my channel, you pretty much usually hear me say, well, oh, this is a glazing technique painting we're going to do today, or oh, this is an Alla Prima technique we're going to do today for this composition, this painting, and that we're going to use the Alla Prima this time. And by that, I just mean that we're going to paint this all at one time. We're not really going to do a big wash of light color all the way across this painting. We're just going to start on the house and do our colors here, and then work from there, and just do everything at one time. And you can take breaks as well when you're doing Alla Prima painting. So Alla Prima just means you're kind of skipping that step of doing a whole large wash over the whole paper and letting it dry for an hour or two, or using a blow dryer. Alla Prima, you can just start painting, and you just work through your painting as you go all the way through until you're finished. And of course, you can take hours to do it, or you can take days. You can paint the house one day and then come back and do the bushes and the mountains the next day, and then you can come back another day and do the grass in the front of the house and the road. You know, you can break it up as much as you want. Work on it as much or as little as you want. Here we're going to try to go, I'm going to try to use this one brush for the entire painting, and this is a number 12, round brush, a number 12 round watercolor brush, and it's a Kolinsky Sable brush, and it's a Da Vinci brand. So I'm going to try to do everything with this one brush to make things simple. And sometimes if you use just one brush, it kind of brings a unity to the painting versus using all different styles and sizes of brushes. If we use one brush for the entire painting. So I'm going to mix French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, raw umber too a little bit, some cerulean blue. This will be my darks for my dark colors. And we'll start down here maybe. And I'm just going to start blocking in the windows a little bit. The glass on the windows. Not too much. We're going to make this more of a fun, free painting. Just get some darks on the underside of the tops of the windows. Usually it's darker on those sections of the windows, and then it gets a little lighter as it goes down, closer to the bottom of the window. And we're just going to do that, like so. And then over here, same thing. These are the French doors up top here on the balcony section. And I think that's good. So there we have our darks. Starting out with my darkest darks first. And we did the windows, the glass on all of the windows and the doors here, a front door. And this is French doors, front entry door, and we have our windows here on the main facade of the house, another window up here in the attic area. And so that's good. We're set. The windows are done. Now we're going to mix a little more color. Let's see what else we want. Let's do the shadowing. So the shadowing is a cerulean blue, but here, and let's use raw umber too. So raw umber and cerulean blue. Now the key with this is we want to make it warm and cool. A little bit of cobalt blue too, maybe. Yeah, better. We want to keep this a mix of warm and cool. So a little bit of the cerulean blue and cobalt blue, and a little bit of the raw umber. That is the best you can do here, because you'll have a little bit of a mixture of warm and cool as you're doing your shadows on this beautiful white house here. If we just went in with one color like cobalt blue and said, okay, let's do the shadows, grab some cobalt blue and just start putting in blue shadow and that's it, not as exciting. You want to kind of get yourself thinking of warm and cool all the time, warm and cool mixtures of colors all the time. It's going to make it look so much better. It tantalizes the viewer's eyes, and it'll tantalize our eyes too, because we're going to enjoy our paintings and what we're doing here. And then if someone else is going to look at your paintings, they're going to be excited too and realize that you did some extra effort and put some interesting colors other than just one or two colors in your painting. See how I did that? I just mixed up the yellow, the raw umber. You can use raw sienna too, a little bit lighter. And there's a shadow under here too. And there's a shadow over here. And you'll find that if you just follow your photograph of your picture, you're going to be way better off. I'm just following the shadow patterns that I'm seeing in my picture. And these columns are only a little bit of shadow. And this goes right down like this. And that's our shadow patterns. Can you see that? Can you see that shadow pattern? I'm just, any picture that you use on the internet, if you look at pictures on the internet and you're finding some pictures of interesting looking houses that you might like to paint and put into your upper quadrant up here, doesn't matter what type of house, if you have a picture that you're using that has good shadows in them, and you'll notice that there'll be a strong bit of sunlight on the building, so the light's coming from over here, and we certainly can put our light insignia up here like so. That's where our light's coming from, the upper left, this way, and that's casting those beautiful shadows under here, all the way across. And under the peak here, and under the eaves of the roof over here. So, and this will dry lighter too, don't forget. When you put this wash on, even though it looks pretty dark here, it's going to lighten up quite a bit. You'll notice that. So let's continue on here. Let's go with some more green. So I'm going to use this mixing well, the same one I used for the other colors. That's okay. We're going to mix up some greens, sap green here, olive green, maybe some French ultramarine blue, just to darken it up a little bit with some burnt umber. Like that. And let's do our bushes. And this is where we have some extra fun. Our bushes here. And they're kind of matching our shadowing. They're a little bit darker maybe than the shadows. And if you want to lighten up your shadows too, if for some reason you feel like your shadows went a little bit dark, that would be the time that you grab a tissue like so. You grab your tissues and maybe you lift up a little bit like that. And then you make sure that if you lift up a little bit of paint, then you have to take your tissue and wrap it around the other way so you don't keep blotting the paint you just lifted up onto your painting. So you have to get fresh, clean tissue each time you do a little bit of blotting like that. So if I think I went too dark on my shadows, I just keep taking this, folding it around so I have fresh, clean tissue each time. Like that. And the same thing, I make sure I have clean tissue like that. And then I do that. Then, see how that works? Now, my bushes become darker. And the problem is solved. You can make your bushes a little bit lighter. You add a little bit of yellow to that. Maybe there's some sunlight. You can do the same thing with the bushes. Grab a brand new tissue. Grab a brand new tissue like this. Do the same thing. If you want to lighten up and put some lights on your bushes on the left side over here, there you go. Like that, and the same thing, keep wrapping it around so you have clean tissue. Like that. Then you can go back in. That's an alternate method if you happen to paint it too dark and all of a sudden you realize I have to lighten that up. Hopefully we'll all get to the point where you kind of get it right on the first try, but not always does that work, so don't worry about it. That's your alternate method of lightening things up if it goes too dark. Okay, so that's good. We have the house pretty much completed here. A shadow under the stairs here. Like that. And then we have the columns. You can always add a little bit of shadow. And you can also add some very light lines like that. You could make this house stucco if you want. And so instead of putting lines like this, like I'm doing here, instead of putting some of these very, very light indications of siding, you could go with stucco. And if you go with stucco, then all you have to do is do a little bit of tapping like that with your brush of very, very fine speckles here and there, just a little bit, and that house becomes a white stucco house, which would look really nice too as well. So you can create any kind of facades you like on your buildings that you paint. So now we're going to go up and we're going to do some roofing here. So I'm going to do my roofing like this. And I leave a little bit of white for the trim on the top of the roof area. Then let's go in and we'll get some cadmium red, and maybe a little bit of orange, cadmium red, orange, and some burnt sienna too. A little bit of burnt umber, and then a little bit of cerulean blue. And this way we can make our chimneys here. I rinse my brush, dry off the brush on my tissue, get a little more color here. Like that. And I think that looks good. And then we have our, and we're keeping this simple. We're not going tremendous details. That's good. We're finished now with the house. Everything looks good. This is a perfect time to take a break, everybody. Perfect time to take a break. And we're going to start to wrap things up here with the sky in the foreground and the ocean over here. So we're in really great shape. Once you get this house, your house completed here, when you're creating your house here and you're doing all your details for that, that'll be fine. We could do a few more, maybe a little bit. There's a little bit of shadows under there, like that. These go a long way if you do these small little details, like those are the bottoms of the windows, where the sills are of the windows. Sometimes they have a little bit of shadow. Also, there tends to be a little bit of a shadow extending beyond the top of the windows where the window trim is on the tops of the windows. So you can kind of get that too a little bit beyond the tops, and that looks better. Okay, let's take a break and we'll start working on the sky, ocean, and foreground next. Okay, we are starting back up here again. We have a lot of progress actually. Once we get this house in and we get the shrubs in here around the house, the bushes, the shadowing, and we get the main colors on this house here. This is a beautiful white clapboard house along the ocean. Once we have this completed, then we're really home free on this painting, because the rest is going to go real fast, real easy. So this is where you're going to do most of your work. This is going to be the most challenging part for you, is getting that house. And you can change around this to any style house you want, or you can change it, and you might not make it a house. You could make it something else. You can create your own ideas, find something else you might want to put here. I mean, it could be a lot of things. It could be a small stand or something like that, like a fruit stand, or like some groceries or fruit stand alongside the road, along the shore. It could be anything you want. You could create your own ideas. This is just one option you have. You can create more options on this. You can take this same idea of design and then spin it off and do things on your own, and create different things. Maybe you'll try this first, and then maybe you'll do something else here. You might make it a small, again, like a small produce stand along the side of the road. You can find pictures of that online, so on and so forth. So let's keep going here. Again, I'm going to try to use my same brush, a number 12 round watercolor brush, just so I can kind of keep the same. I think if you keep the same brush throughout your entire painting, it does add to more of a unified look to your painting, versus if you're using 3 or 4 different style brushes. That can sometimes look a little bit unpleasant. So you'll find a lot of the professional artists out there, they'll tend to use 1 or 2 brushes, usually style brushes. So they might use like a round and a square brush or a flat brush. That might be the only two they use. Or they might use a round brush and like a mop brush. So a mop brush like this. So, you know, you might have a mop brush and a round brush. And a mop brush is similar to a round brush actually, just larger, holds a lot more water. So, but for this one, we'll try to just use this number 12, see what we can do. I think the first thing I'll do is I'll do the ocean over here. So a great ocean color is always cobalt blue. For those that are Winslow Homer fans, he used to use a lot of that cobalt blue looking ocean color. So I'm going to do that. That's all. Just that. That's simple. I tend to like Viridian green a lot. Let's take some Viridian green. That was a little bit of... Now's my time. I'm going to change my water out over here on the side. So I'll tend to change out my water occasionally. Now's the time I'll change it because I want to use some of those really nice subtle greens now for the water. So I'm going to go in there and get my Viridian green. As you can see here, my Viridian green is, I need to add some in there, I think. But this will do. And look at how great that looks. A couple of splashes, that's good. And that gives us the feeling of the, and I'll use some burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue. I want that little bit of a darker color along the top of the ocean. I always like to do that, add that little bit of a darker touch on the top of the ocean there. Like that. That looks good. Now, let's do some of the mountains here. So we can use some of that green we were using before, and then some of this too, some of that blue we just were working along with that. We want to make the distant mountains a cool color with some warm in there too. Purple too, it looks great for those distant colors. Cooler, warmish, cool feeling, that there. So maybe some of that purple color. It's kind of a cool, it's almost like a blue, but it's a little more warmer than a blue. And then we can go in and get some raw umber. And then we can add that to our closer areas where there's hills and things like that. And the same here. Now you can kind of see we have a really nice parallel line going across the entire painting, like that. The ocean, the mountains, ties right into the house. And on this side, now that's really a really strong line. That looks great. Now we're going to start bringing those other lines into the house area to kind of direct our vision into this area. So let's start doing that. Maybe we'll do the lighter colors first, and then we'll go lastly with the darker washes. So what we'll do now is once we start mixing a lot of colors, then it's a good time to just clean up our palette. We don't want to keep doing colors upon colors and not take a break, and we can just tidy up our palette a bit. That should be fine. And then now we're going to go in and we're going to do the foreground here and the sky. I'll do the foreground. I'm going to save the sky for last. We'll do the foreground here. That's going to be raw umber, cerulean blue, yellow ochre. So we're going to kind of do all these raw umber, yellow ochre, cerulean blue, warm and cool all the time. Warm and cool. Always try to have warm and cool colors going. It's just more exciting looking on the paper. And now you can kind of see I have mostly warm, yellow ochre, raw umber, but I have my cool. I'm going to add a little bit of cool into this. There's the cerulean blue, and then now burnt sienna for the warm. So mostly warm, sand colors, right? We're on the shore here, sand colors, but you do want some cool in there too to mix into that. Otherwise it would look boring, just the one. Now here's where we just have a fun time. We take our brush. Instead of holding our brush in our normal way, when we hold our brush like a pencil or a pen, or an office pencil or an office pen, when we're doing our paintings on our house like so, and our bushes and so forth, and mountains. Now to get this area, the front area of our composition, our painting, we're going to take the brush and hold it like this. So basically you can imagine you want to hold it so that you can slide it across the painting. You want to slide the brush this way versus using the point like this. So you want to slide the brush across on the side of the brush like so. So you take, we're just going to have fun with this. Pick up some colors, no particular rhyme or reason, just grab a little bit of everything. And then just do this. Just start throwing it on there like this, following your lines that we sketched on there. Remember we drew those lines, those pencil lines? Just like that. Basically like a star pattern. So if you drew a star lightly on your painting, a star pattern starting at your house as the center point, and just start drawing star patterns going out from there, you'll have it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to do my star pattern like that. Then I'm going to do some splashing on here. Then some more like so. Again, cerulean blue. We want some warm and cool in there. And that's about it. Then over here on the road, we're going to go with more of a grayish color. Let's mix in more cerulean blue. And again, I'm going to take the brush and go on the side of the brush. And maybe some cobalt blue too, to make that a little cooler, like the road. Like that. And we're going to do more to this, as you'll see. Now warmer colors, again, sand colors. Good. That's all you need to do. Trust me, that's all you need to do. We're going to go over this too. We're going to do some darker lines on top of this. We're going to do some some weeds and some grass and a couple details right here in the foreground. So this is sort of like your backdrop right now. We're going to do more to this, but this is all you need for right now, is that really powerful holding your brush on the side and getting in some really just good powerful lines going in toward the house. And you want to have those broken bits of watercolor paper in there. You don't want to cover the whole paper with paint. You definitely want to leave a lot of those whites in there. Can you see all those whites? Can you see the white bits of paper? That's always good to have that. That's going to feel like light in the paper and in the painting, like some light shimmering on the ground here in the front of the painting. So let's leave some of those whites there, like so. Good. Now let's work on the sky. Now to do the sky, let's take another quick bit of paper towel and let's tidy up our palette one more time. Again, when you're doing these light washes, remember, when you're doing very light washes like sky washes and water, things like that, you have to keep your palette clean so you have clean colors. Does that make sense? Because you're really going to see it because it's a light wash, so anything is anything that gets mixed up in your paint, you're going to see that. Whereas if you're doing dark colors, you're not going to see mixtures. So if your paint gets a little mixed up here and there when you're doing your your dark areas, your dark bushes or your roof, some of your shadows, no problem. You don't have to worry about that. You can mix in any colors you want. No one's going to see it. But when you start doing these light washes like here and then up in our sky, you're going to notice that you have to kind of keep your palette a little more clean and get your colors more fresh and clean looking with less muddiness to them. So that's when you really want to keep your palette clean, especially when you're doing light washes like sky washes. So let's get our sky wash ready, and we're going to use the same colors we used in the painting. We wouldn't start going into a different color right now. We're going to keep our same colors we've used throughout the painting. And cerulean blue is a great sky color. And then we can add a little bit of raw umber in there just to have a little bit of warm and cool in there. And then let's do the same thing with the sky. We'll make it a light sky. And with the sky wash, have some fun. Just fire it in there. Look at that. Oh. Kind of do the lines though, right? Star, we're doing the star pattern. The star pattern, remember that. You can do little light pencil lines on your paper that you can barely see to keep you remembering that you want to do that star pattern like that, and then you just keep doing that. With the sky wash, do the same thing. There you go. And you leave some white paper in there too. Look at that, how beautiful that looks. And then you can take a touch of orange, just a little bit of orange, and put that into the bottom area, where the bottom of the sky where it meets the mountains. Just a little tiny bit of cadmium orange along the horizon line will always look great in your paintings if you're doing skies. Beautiful. Look at how great that looks. Now we have to let this dry. So let's let this dry. We'll take a break. And then once this is 100% dry, now this is a kind of like now remember that we did this Alla Prima. This is an Alla Prima painting. We started in the house here, painted everything as we went along. But now, like the glazing technique, since we did a lot of big washes here with a lot of water, this must dry 100%. So now's your time. You're either going to get the blow dryer out and blow dry this 100% dry, or you're taking like a 2-hour break and then coming back 2 hours later to do the rest of the painting, because you cannot go back in now and do any of the lines of the utility poles or the wires or any kind of, you want to always at this point, when you put a lot of water and a lot of large light washes on there, you have to let it dry 100%. That's the only thing you have to remember. When you're doing large washes like this in the sky and in this foreground, you've got to let it dry once you're done. Let it dry 100%. Then you come back after that and you do your darks, your super dark darks of the different details you'll finish up. But this is almost like 90% done now. This painting is 90% complete. We're just going to do the utility poles and a couple little bushes and some weeds here and there, and we're all completed. So you're home free now. You just have to be patient and let this dry, or if you have a blow dryer, blow it dry at 100% dry, and then you can go in and finish it. Okay, so I'm going to take a break now, and I'll come back, and then we'll finish up. Okay, so we are finishing up here, and you can see I actually used the blow dryer here, and I just took about a couple minutes and did a blow drying of the entire sheet of my paper here to dry off that whole really large bit of wash that we did. Really lots of water and lots of paint. We did the sky and the foreground here with a lot of water, a lot of paint. We needed to make that dry 100%, and I took the blow dryer, took my time, made sure it's 100% dry. There's no spots that are damp. Everything is dry, and that's perfect. That's what we want now to finish up here. Now, the fun part of this is the darks. You can see we have a lot of powerful darks right here in this section of the painting. Over here too as well, there's this ocean area is very dark. We have to take those darks and finish out the painting with the darks to kind of extend it out everywhere, because if you just leave darks like this on only a few spots of your painting, it's not going to look good. So let's see if my theory is right. You're going to come along with me here now and see if my theory is right. Is this painting looking good enough like this, or do we need to add some more darks? So let's ask that question. Can you see that? How this is all light except for over here and these darks here? You will be the judge when you see this, when we're complete. You'll see how it turns out. So we're going to go back in and get some more darks like we were doing before. Sap green, French ultramarine blue to get a nice dark here. Burnt umber, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue, maybe a little bit of the cerulean blue too. Okay, and some sap green too. All right, let's take our brush again. Now, if you can see this is mostly straight paint, no water, and that's what you want for these darker washes now. So from this point on, once you blow dry your painting, and you blow dry all this super light sky wash you did, and this lighter foreground wash that you did, once you did all this, and now it's all dry, you've walked away for a couple hours, or the next day you come back and it's all dry, or if you use a blow dryer to speed up the process, you can do that too. Now you have it. You're not using any more large amounts of water. Now you're using straight paint. So you can see here, this is all straight paint. I haven't used any water at all. And that's what you want. You don't want to use any water at this point, only straight paint. Straight paint now. And this way you have control over those darks. Because if your dark paints, you start adding too much water to that, it'll become puddly and it won't look good. To have your darker washes, you have to have straight paint. So let's see how this works out. Let's go with, so there's like a hedge here. Like that. So there's a hedge along here. And I'm just flipping the brush up like this, here and there. Sap green with all those wonderful brown, French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, burnt sienna, sap green. And we have, look at those darks, how great they look. And you can see how I've carefully using the darks here just to kind of get some like that. And now I did say let's kind of use, maybe this is the side over here with a little more dark there for the roadway. Now, this is the point where I will use an additional brush. I hope you don't mind if I use an additional brush. You'll see me use this brush often to do some beautiful weeds and grasses and things. So I use this is a Ron Ranson Hake brush by Cheap Joe's Art Stuff. You can get these at Cheap Joe's Art Supplies. He has a ton of art supplies on his website and great prices. I got these at his website, Cheap Joe's Art Stuff. I got 3 brushes just like this. This is the smallest one, or this is a medium. This is the medium. So there's a smaller version of this one and a larger, wider one. This one's perfect. I use this one all the time, the medium Hake brush. You take this brush, you dip it in a little bit of water, get it damp. Once you get the brush damp, then you just splay out the hairs like so. So you just take it splay out the hairs, and this brush, it always comes back to look beautiful once you're done working with it. Like that. And then you just go in and get some color. We might need a little more color, so blue, green, brown. Okay, this needs a little more water. And then you can use your round brush to mix up the paint, because sometimes you need to use the round brush to get into the wells here, like so. So that's all. I'm using the round brush. Raw umber. I'm just making those earth tones, grass tones with the greens. A little bit of cerulean blue. And again, let's just mush all that paint in there. There we go. That's all you need, is a few of these here and there. Like that. A couple over here. You won't see them in the distance, far in the distance, but you will see some of these grasses and things like that closer up. Like that. Good. Okay, so that's the Hake brush. Now we're going to go back to our round brush. Burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, again the dark colors, burnt sienna, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, raw umber, a little bit of cerulean blue. No water at all. And let's see if we can, if you have a hard time with straight lines, you can use any type of you can use a ruler if you have a ruler handy, like so. If you have a ruler, I use a piece of molding that I have left over from when I was doing some trim work in the house. You can use that, and you can hold it in one hand with your left hand. If you're right-handed, you hold it with your left hand here, this stick, you hold it with your left hand, and then you just ride your brush along the side of the stick up to get your vertical lines if you need to. So here I'm going to do a utility pole, and then you have to hold it up pretty high. Or if it's not working that way, you can just go a little bit at a time, like so. So you can do a little bit of the pole at a time. So I'm going to do this a little bit at a time, you'll see. Like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can get away with imperfection when it comes to this. As long as it's somewhat straight, you're okay. You can also take two pieces of tape. If you're having a tremendously difficult time with straight lines, you could also take two pieces of tape and just like put them over the top of the paper, one on each side of the paper all the way up, and then paint in between the lines of the tape, and then lift up your tape. That'll work too. But sometimes if you just go for it and just do maybe one quick stroke like that, like just take the brush and go and slide it across the page, you can get a good straight line that way usually. Or you can take your paper and take your pad of paper, or you're painting your paper, and lift it up off your board, spin it around, and then paint it across this way. Sometimes it's easier to do a line like this across. Any which way you do it is fine. And then here's a smaller line, easy enough like that to do that. That's easy. Not a big deal like that. Doing these smaller ones, those won't give you too much of an issue. Like that. And then these lines here, we're also going to use a different brush. I'll cover that in just a second. I think that'll be it though. Actually, once we get these communication lines in, I think we'll be all set. So let's do that. Let's do the other communication lines. We're going to use our needlepoint brush, number 8 needlepoint brush. So for this, we need a little bit more water. So you can kind of see there is a bit of decent water here, not too much water. There's quite a bit of dark paint in there. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, cerulean blue. And then I take my needlepoint brush, load it up with lots of water and paint. You might need to dry off a little bit with your tissue. But if you're going to do these wires up here close by, you can load your brush up and you don't have to dry off your brush at all. And then you're just going to go up like this. Practice a few times. You do a couple practice runs. And then like that, like that, like this, like that. Good. Then here you can dry off your brush a little bit, and then you just go in here and do the other couple. And that's it. That's good for there. And you can put some pegs on these utility lines. And you can also do some weeds, and you have them kind of wisping in the wind here. There's some wind. You'll have a feeling of wind and breezes along the shoreline here if you just do a couple. Like that. And that's it. That's a finished painting. So we're going to peel off our tape just to kind of see how this all looks overall with a frame around it. So this is, if you can imagine, your mat across your painting. We're just going to remove our tape border. And you can always see that when you lift up that tape, it really makes a beautiful border for your painting. And even if it's just a composition that you've practiced, if you have that tape around it and you peel off the tape, it's beautiful. You'll set it aside and put it in a folder, and you'll look at it in a couple months and go, wow, it does look pretty good, because you have a border around it. Borders always make the painting look much better. It's like a frame, actually. Paintings always look better framed with a mat. So when you do this, you're having the same effect. And you can see that my painting looks much better now that it's framed like this with the white paper. And that's our finished painting. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you haven't subscribed, hey, we do beautiful paintings like this every week. You just hit that subscribe button down below on the right-hand side. We're doing paintings like this. Everything is watercolor on this channel. And also, too, if you hit the notification bells, actually, there's a notification bell right next to the subscribe button. This way, at least you'll be notified when the video comes out. You can watch it once, get familiar with it, and then maybe the next time you're going to watch it in a day or two, you're going to be painting it and working on it, and you'll have already seen it one time, which makes it much easier to recall the things that we went over here, the ideas, the composition, the methods, the techniques that we use as we go and do this painting. Again, happy painting, everybody. Enjoy, and we're going to see you on the next video very soon. Bye-bye.